The Star Runner moved slowly through the empty space between stars. Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge, watching the stars shine through the large windows. His ship had been exploring this part of space for 3 months now. They were looking for new planets and checking old trade routes. Jake was a tall man with brown hair and quiet eyes. He had been flying ships for 15 years. Most of that time was spent in peaceful work. The galaxy was a safe place now. The Galactic Federation made sure all the different alien races got along well. Humans had joined the Federation 200 years ago. Since then, they worked as traders, builders, and peacekeepers. "Captain, we are getting close to the Haven's Rest system," said Amy Rodriguez from her seat at the communications desk. She was young with dark hair and always spoke clearly. "Should I send them a message to let them know we are coming?" "Yes, do that," Jake said. "Tell them we will arrive in 2 hours. We are just checking to make sure everything is okay." Haven's Rest was a farming planet. About 50,000 people lived there. They grew food that was sent to other worlds. It was a quiet place where families went to live simple lives away from the busy cities of other planets. Ben Carter sat at the weapons station, but there was not much for him to do. The Star Runner had some basic guns, but they had not been used in years. Ben was a big man with strong arms. He used to be a soldier, but now he just made sure their equipment worked properly. Most Federation ships did not need real weapons anymore. "I still cannot reach Haven's Rest," Amy said after trying for an hour. "Their communication system must be broken." Lisa Grant looked up from her engineering station. She was smart and could fix almost anything. Her red hair was tied back as she worked on her computer. "That is strange," she said. "I checked their systems 6 months ago. Everything was working fine." Jake felt worried. Haven's Rest always answered their calls. The people there were friendly and liked to talk to visitors. "Keep trying, Amy. Maybe there is something wrong with space around the planet that is blocking our signals." The ship moved closer to Haven's Rest. Soon they could see the planet on their screens. It looked like a green and blue ball floating in space. But something was wrong. There were no lights from the cities. There were no ships flying around the planet. "Captain," Lisa said with fear in her voice, "I am reading very high radiation levels near the planet. This looks like the marks left by plasma bombs." Ben stood up quickly. His soldier training made him alert to danger. Plasma bombs? Who would bomb a farming planet? Jake felt cold fear in his stomach. "Get us closer, but be careful. Amy, scan for any people still alive down there." The Star Runner moved into orbit around Haven's Rest. What they saw made everyone on the bridge stop talking. The main city was gone. In its place was a black crater that still glowed with heat. Smaller towns were burned ruins. The farms were destroyed. Nothing moved on the surface. "I am detecting some weak life signs," Amy said quietly. "Very few. Maybe a dozen people hiding in underground shelters." "We need to go down there," Jake said. "Lisa, get a team ready. Ben, you come with us. Bring security equipment." Maria Santos met them at the shuttle bay. She was the ship's security chief, a tough woman who had worked on many different worlds. She carried a gun and had extra equipment for the team. "I do not like this, Captain. Someone did this on purpose. They wanted to kill everyone." The shuttle flew down to the planet's surface. The air smelled like smoke and burned metal. They landed near what used to be the town hall. Now it was just broken walls and melted metal. They found the first survivor in a basement under a destroyed house. It was an old man named Pete who ran a small store. He was hurt and scared. When he saw Jake and the others, he started to cry. "They came from the sky," Pete said with a shaking voice. "Big ships, bigger than anything I ever saw. They did not try to talk to us. They just started shooting." "Who were they?" Maria asked. "What did they look like?" Pete closed his eyes and tried to remember. Tall, very tall, maybe 8 feet. They wore black armor that covered everything. When they took off their helmets, they had long faces and yellow eyes. They had sharp teeth like animals. Ben wrote down everything Pete said. This did not sound like any race in the Federation. "Did they take people prisoner?" "Yes," Pete said. "They took the young ones." anyone who was strong and healthy. They left, the old and sick people to die. Jake felt angry, but he kept his voice calm. How many ships did they have? 20, maybe 30. They had small fighters and big ships that looked like flying knives. After they took the people they wanted, they bombed everything else. The team found 11 more survivors over the next few hours. They all told the same story. Strange aliens had attacked without warning. They destroyed the planet and took prisoners. No one knew why. Back on the Star Runner, Jake called a meeting with his senior officers. They sat around a table in the ship's main meeting room. Everyone looked serious and worried. This was not a random attack, Maria said. They knew exactly what they were doing. They took young, healthy people and destroyed everything else. This was planned. Lisa was working on her computer. I checked the Federation database. There is no record of any race that looks like what the survivors described. These aliens are not part of the Federation. Amy had been listening to space communications all day. Captain, I am getting reports from other Federation worlds. 3 more human colonies have stopped answering calls, and there are strange ship sightings near the border of Federation space. Jake stood up and walked to the window. He looked out at the stars and thought hard. Humans had been peaceful for so long that most people forgot they had ever been anything else. The Federation races saw humans as good at building things and solving problems without fighting. But Jake remembered the old stories his grandfather told him. Stories about the time before the Federation, when humans had to fight just to survive. When they built warships and trained soldiers because the galaxy was a dangerous place. Ben, Jake said quietly, in your military training, did they ever teach you about the old human defense protocols? Ben nodded slowly. A little bit. There were emergency plans made long ago in case humanity was ever in real danger. But those systems have been shut down for 200 years. Maybe it is time to turn them back on, Jake said. He walked to his captain's chair and opened a special panel that had never been used. Inside was a red button and a small screen. Jake pressed his hand on the screen. It scanned his palm and checked his identity. Computer, I am Captain Jake Morrison of the Federation vessel Star Runner. I am activating Emergency Protocol 7 under the authority of the Human Defense Charter. The computer was quiet for a moment. Then it spoke in a different voice, one that sounded older and more serious. Protocol 7 confirmed, sending coded message to all designated receivers. Message will be transmitted using pre-Federation channels. Amy looked at her communication equipment with surprise. Captain, I am detecting a signal being sent, but I cannot read it. It is using some kind of old Earth military code. Jake sat down in his chair and looked at his crew. These were good people who had lived their whole lives in peace. They had never seen real war, or knew what humans could do when they were truly angry. I just sent a message to people who have been waiting for 200 years to receive it, Jake said. I told them that humanity is under attack and we need help. Lisa looked confused. What people? Where? Jake smiled, but it was not a happy smile. It was the smile of someone who knows that everything is about to change. The sleeping giants of humanity, Lisa, and now they are waking up. Far away in the hidden places of human space, old machines that had been quiet for centuries suddenly came to life. Lights turned on in secret bases. Computers that had been sleeping began to work again. And in those hidden places, people who had been waiting for this day started to move. The galaxy was about to learn something it had forgotten about humans. When their families were threatened, when their children were taken, when their homes were destroyed, humans did not just get sad or scared, they got angry. And when humans got angry, they remembered how to fight. Admiral Kate Sullivan was drinking her morning coffee when the red light started flashing. She had not seen those lights in 20 years of service at Titan Naval Base. The base was hidden deep inside an asteroid in the outer part of the Sol system. Most people in the galaxy did not even know it existed. Kate was 50 years old with gray hair and sharp eyes. She had been waiting for this day since she was a young officer. Her grandfather had built this base and others like it. He told her that someday humanity might need to fight again. That day had finally come. The message from Captain Morrison was short but clear. Human colonies were being attacked. People were being killed and taken prisoner. The aliens doing this were not part of the Federation. They were something new and dangerous. Kate walked quickly to the command center. The room was huge, with screens covering every wall. Men and women in dark blue uniforms were already working at their stations. These people had trained their whole lives for this moment, but they had hoped it would never come. "Status report," Kate said to her second-in-command, Colonel Frank Davis. "Protocol 7 is active across all hidden bases," Frank said. "We have received similar attacks on 5 human worlds in the past week. The aliens call themselves the HFY Empire. They are moving fast and hitting our outer colonies first." Kate looked at the big screen that showed a map of human space. Red marks showed where attacks had happened. Yellow marks showed where human ships had gone missing. It was a pattern she had studied in military school long ago. "They are testing us," she said. "The first attacks are small to see how we respond. If we look weak, they will attack our main worlds next." Dr. Alex Chen entered the command center, carrying a thick book and a computer tablet. He was a thin man with thick glasses who studied military history. Most Federation citizens thought human history was boring because humans had been peaceful for so long. Alex knew better. "Admiral, I have finished my report on the HFY," Alex said. "They are a warrior race that has stayed hidden beyond the edge of known space. They believe that strong races should rule over weak ones. They have been watching the Federation for 50 years planning this attack." Kate sat down at her command chair. Around her, officers were waking up systems that had been sleeping for 2 centuries. Lights came on in hidden shipyards. Weapons that had been stored in secret places were being loaded onto ships. "What do they think about humans?" Kate asked. Alex opened his book to a page full of notes. "This is the interesting part. To them, we look like easy targets. They see us as builders and traders. They know we can make good machines and negotiate deals, but they think we are weak fighters. They have no idea what humans were like before the Federation." "Good," Kate said with a cold smile. "Let them keep thinking that." Meanwhile, in HFY space, Commander Vextar stood on the bridge of his flagship Bloodfang. He was 8 feet, tall with yellow eyes and sharp teeth. His black armor was covered with marks showing all the worlds he had conquered. To him, this attack on human space was just another easy victory. "How are the humans responding to our attacks?" he asked his intelligence officer. "Exactly as predicted, Commander. They are sending messages asking for help from the Federation Council. They are not fighting back. Some of their ships are running away from our scouts." Vextar laughed, a sound like breaking glass. "These humans are even weaker than we thought. My spies tell me they have not fought a real war in over 200 years. They have forgotten how to be warriors." What Vextar did not know was that some of those running human ships were actually watching his forces and sending information back to the hidden bases. The humans had not forgotten how to fight. They had just gotten better at hiding their strength. Back at Titan Base, Lieutenant Colonel Ryan Brooks was getting ready for a dangerous mission. He was a quiet man with dark hair and scars on his hands from years of training. His job was to sneak into HFY territory and learn more about their plans. "Your team will use the new stealth ship Ghostwalker," Kate told him. "It uses technology that the Federation has never seen. The HFY will not be able to detect you." Ryan nodded. His team included Sergeant Kelly Murphy, a weapons expert with short blonde hair and a quick smile, and Corporal Dan Phillips, a sniper who could hit targets from incredible distances. They had trained together for years but had never been in a real battle. "What are we looking for?" Kelly asked. "Intelligence," Kate said. "We need to know how many ships they have, where their bases are, and what they plan to do with the prisoners they are taking." The Ghostwalker was unlike any ship in the Federation fleet. It was black and angular, designed to be invisible to enemy sensors. The engine made no sound, and the hull absorbed light instead of reflecting it. The ship looked like something from a nightmare. Ryan's team flew deep into HFY space without being detected. They found a research station built inside a dead moon. The station was heavily guarded, but the Ghostwalker was able to slip past the patrols. "I am reading life signs inside," Dan said, looking at his scanner. "Hundreds of them. Most are human. They landed the ship in a crater on the dark side of the moon and put on their armor. The armor was also black and helped them hide from enemy eyes. They carried weapons that were more advanced than anything the Federation military used. Inside the research station, they found something horrible. The HFY were doing experiments on the human prisoners. They were trying to learn what made humans different from other Federation races. They wanted to know if humans had any hidden strengths. "This is sick," Kelly whispered as they watched through a window. "They are treating people like animals in a lab." Ryan recorded everything with his camera. The Federation Council needed to see this. More importantly, the hidden human military needed to know what they were fighting against. They rescued as many prisoners as they could, but there were too many guards. During the escape, alarms started ringing throughout the station. HFY soldiers came running from every direction. "We need to destroy this place," Kelly said, pulling out her explosives. "We cannot let them continue these experiments." Ryan ordered. "Dan, cover us while Kelly sets the charges." The battle was quick and brutal. Dan's rifle made no sound as he shot guard after guard. Ryan moved like a shadow, striking enemies before they knew he was there. But there were too many of them. "The charges are set," Kelly said. "We have 3 minutes to get out." They ran toward their ship, carrying the rescued prisoners. More guards appeared, blocking their path. Kelly turned to Ryan with a sad smile. "Get them out of here," she said. "I will hold off the guards." "Kelly, no," Ryan shouted, but she was already running back toward the enemy. Kelly fought like a demon, her weapons cutting through the HFY soldiers. She gave Ryan and Dan enough time to get the prisoners to the ship, but she could not escape in time. The explosion destroyed the entire research station and everyone inside it. Ryan and Dan flew back to human space with heavy hearts. They had learned what they needed to know, but the cost was high. Kelly Murphy became the first human to die fighting the HFY, but she would not be the last. When they returned to Titan Base, Admiral Kate was waiting for them. She read Ryan's report and watched the recordings he had made. Her face grew harder with each page. "Send this information to all human fleet commanders," she ordered, "and activate Project Retribution. It is time to show the galaxy what humans can really do." Across human space, hidden shipyards opened their doors. Warships that had been built in secret started their engines. Soldiers who had trained in the shadows put on their armor. The sleeping giants of humanity were finally waking up. At the same time, the Federation Council was meeting on the planet Harmony. The alien leaders were discussing the attacks on human colonies. Most of them thought it was a small problem that would solve itself. "The humans are asking for military help," said Council Leader Zafani, a tall alien with blue skin. "But we cannot start a war over a few border attacks. The humans have always been peaceful," agreed another council member. "They will find a diplomatic solution." What the council did not know was that human ships were already moving through space. Ships that were faster and stronger than anything in the Federation fleet. Ships that carried weapons designed for total war. Admiral Kate stood in the command center, watching the screens show human fleets moving into position. After 200 years of hiding their true strength, humanity was about to remind the galaxy why they had conquered the stars in the first place. "Send a message to all human colonies," she ordered. "Tell them help is coming. And send a message to the HFY Empire. Tell them they have made a very big mistake." The gentle mask that humanity had worn for centuries was finally coming off. Beneath it was something the galaxy had forgotten existed, something that would not stop fighting until every human prisoner was free and every enemy was defeated. The war was just beginning. Captain Nina Foster stood on the bridge of the Iron Will, watching the massive ship come out of its hiding place for the first time in 200 years. The dreadnought was 3 miles long and covered in black armor that could stop any weapon the galaxy had ever seen. It was one of 12 super-heavy warships that humans had built in secret. Nina was a strong woman with brown hair tied back in a tight knot. She had commanded cargo ships for 10 years before the military found her and told her the truth about humanity's hidden fleet. Now she commanded the most powerful warship ever built by human hands. "All systems are working perfectly, Captain," reported her chief engineer, Lieutenant Paul Kim. He was young but very smart, and he understood the ship's advanced technology better than anyone. The fusion reactors are running at full power. All weapons are ready to fire. The Iron Will was not alone. Around it floated 11 other dreadnoughts, each one capable of fighting an entire enemy fleet by itself. They had been built using technology that humans had developed while pretending to be peaceful traders and builders. The galaxy had no idea what humans could really create when they put their minds to war. Admiral Tony Wright commanded the Third Fleet from his flagship Thunderstrike. He was an old man with white hair and cold blue eyes. He had spent 40 years preparing for this day, training crews and building ships that no one else knew existed. Now he was finally going to use them. "Enemy fleet detected," announced his tactical officer, Commander Sue Davis. "The Kethvar are approaching the New Geneva system with over 300 ships. They think they are going to destroy another human world." Tony smiled grimly. New Geneva was home to 20 million people. It was one of humanity's most important worlds, with big cities and space stations that built ships for the Federation. The Kethvar expected to find it defended by a few small patrol boats. Instead, they were about to meet the Third Fleet. "All ships, this is Admiral Wright," Tony said into his communications system. "The enemy thinks we are weak. They think we have forgotten how to fight. Today we show them how wrong they are." In the New Geneva system, the Kethvar fleet came out of faster-than-light travel expecting an easy victory. Commander Vextar stood on his bridge, looking at the planet that he planned to destroy. His ships were arranged in the standard Kethvar attack formation, designed to terrify enemies who had never seen real warfare. "Begin the bombardment," Vextar ordered. "Destroy their orbital stations first, then the cities. Take prisoners only if they surrender quickly." But before his ships could fire their first shots, space around them suddenly filled with human warships. The Third Fleet appeared like ghosts, their black hulls making them almost invisible against the stars. The Kethvar had never seen ships like these before. "What are those?" Vextar's tactical officer asked with fear in his voice. "They do not match any ship in our database. They are just human cargo ships with some weapons attached," Vextar said, but he did not sound as confident as before. "Begin the attack." The battle that followed became legend throughout the galaxy. The Kethvar ships were big and powerful, designed to frighten enemies into surrender. But the human ships moved like dancers, working together in perfect coordination. Every shot they fired hit its target. Every maneuver was planned 3 steps ahead. Captain Nina Foster led her dreadnought into the heart of the enemy formation. The Iron Will's main guns fired beams of pure energy that cut through Kethvar armor like paper. Enemy ships that had seemed unstoppable exploded into clouds of burning metal. "Target their command ship," Nina ordered. "Let us show their leader what human engineering can do." The Iron Will fired all of its weapons at once. The blast lit up space like a small sun. Vextar's flagship shook like a toy in a storm. Half of its weapons were destroyed in a single attack. "Impossible," Vextar whispered, watching his mighty fleet being torn apart by ships he had thought were weak. "How do they fight like this?" Commander Lisa Hayes led her fighter squadron against the Kethvar attack craft. Her fighters were small and fast, built for precision strikes rather than brute force. She was a pilot who had trained in secret combat schools that the Federation did not know existed. "Gold Squadron, form up on me," Lisa said over her radio. "We go for their engine systems. Take out their ability to run away." The human fighters moved through the battle like deadly insects, too small and fast for the big Kethvar guns to hit. But their own weapons were powerful enough to cripple enemy ships with surgical strikes. Lisa's squadron destroyed 30 enemy fighters without losing a single pilot. On the ground, Colonel Mike Anderson was leading his Marines in a different kind of battle. Some Kethvar soldiers had managed to land on New Geneva before the space battle started. They were trying to take hostages in the capital city. Mike was a big man with scars on his face from training accidents. His Marines wore armor that was black and silent, making them nearly invisible in the city's shadows. They had been trained to fight in ways that the galaxy had not seen for centuries. "Remember," Mike told his men as they moved through the streets, "the enemy thinks humans are weak. Let us show them what human soldiers can really do." The HFY warriors were 8 feet tall and very strong. They had conquered dozens of worlds and thought they were the best fighters in the galaxy. But they had never fought humans who were trained for real war. The battle in the city was over in 2 hours. The HFY soldiers found themselves fighting an enemy that seemed to be everywhere at once. Human marines appeared from shadows, struck with deadly precision, and vanished before the enemy could fight back. When it was over, every HFY soldier was either dead or captured. Back in space, Admiral Tony Wright watched his fleet destroy the enemy formation. The HFY had started the battle with 300 ships. Now they had less than 50 left, and those were trying to escape. "Do not let any of them get away," Tony ordered. "We cannot have them telling their empire how we fight." Dr. Rebecca Stone watched the battle from her research station on the edge of the system. She was a scientist who had spent 20 years developing the technology that made human ships so powerful. While the galaxy thought humans were just good at building peaceful machines, she had been creating weapons of war. "The new shield systems are working perfectly," she reported to Admiral Wright. "Enemy weapons are having almost no effect on our ships." The secret of human technology was simple but powerful. While other races built their ships to be big and impressive, humans built their ships to win battles. Every system was designed for maximum efficiency. Every weapon was tested until it was perfect. Every tactic was practiced until it became automatic. Commander Vextar tried to escape in his damaged flagship, but Captain Nina Foster was waiting for him. The Iron Will blocked his path. Its massive guns pointed directly at his bridge. "Surrender," Nina said over the communication channel. "Your fleet is destroyed. Your soldiers are defeated. You have lost." Vextar looked around his ruined bridge. Half of his crew was dead, his ship was falling apart. For the first time in his life, the great HFY warrior felt fear. "This is impossible," he said. "You are just traders and builders. You are not warriors." "You are wrong," Nina replied. "We are humans. And when you threaten our families, you discover what we really are." The Battle of New Geneva ended with the complete destruction of the HFY fleet. Only a few enemy ships escaped, and they carried terrible news back to their empire. The humans were not the weak prey they had seemed to be. Across the galaxy, other species heard about the battle and could not believe what they were told. The peaceful humans had ships that could destroy entire fleets. The gentle diplomats were actually trained warriors. It seemed impossible. On the Federation Council World of Harmony, the alien leaders held an emergency meeting. They watched recordings of the battle with shock and fear. These were not the humans they thought they knew. "How long have they had these ships?" asked Council Leader Zefani. "How long have they been planning for war?" asked another member. The truth was that humans had never stopped being warriors. They had just learned to hide their strength behind smiles and trade agreements. For 200 years they had built their secret fleets and trained their hidden armies, hoping they would never be needed. But when the HFY Empire made the mistake of attacking human worlds, they woke something that had been sleeping for centuries. They discovered that human peace was not weakness, it was a choice. And when that choice was taken away, humans remembered exactly how to fight. Emperor Kethevos received the news of the defeat in his throne room on the HFY homeworld. He was the ruler of an empire that had conquered 50 worlds. He had never known defeat. But now his greatest fleet had been destroyed by an enemy he had thought was harmless. "Send word to all our fleets," he ordered his generals. "We are no longer fighting weak traders, we are fighting something much more dangerous." But it was already too late. Across human space, more fleets were waking up. More weapons were being loaded, more soldiers were putting on their armor. The sleeping giants of humanity had stirred, and now they were walking among the stars. The galaxy was about to learn that there was a reason humans had conquered their home system before joining the Federation. There was a reason they had spread to hundreds of worlds in just a few centuries. There was a reason other species had always felt a little nervous around humans, even when they were being friendly. Some things should not be awakened. Some sleeping giants should be left alone. The HFY Empire was about to learn this lesson the hard way. General Steve Parker stood in the command center of the secret military base called Iron Mountain. Around him, dozens of officers worked at screens that showed the positions of human fleets across the galaxy. Today was the day they had planned, for 2 centuries. Today, humanity would end the Kethavar Empire forever. Steve was a tall man with gray hair and calm eyes. He had spent his entire life preparing for this moment. While other humans lived peaceful lives as traders and builders, he had studied war. He knew that sometimes peace could only be protected by those willing to fight. Operation Giant Step is ready to begin, reported his assistant, Colonel Mary Johnson. She was a smart woman who had helped plan every detail of the attack. All 17 target systems have human fleets in position. We are ready to strike at the same time. The plan was simple but massive. Human fleets would attack every major Kethavar military base at the exact same moment. The enemy would not have time to send help to each other. Each battle would be finished before the Kethavar could understand what was happening. Begin the operation, Steve ordered. Show the galaxy what happens when you threaten human families. Across 17 star systems, human warships appeared from faster-than-light travel. Each fleet was commanded by officers who had trained their whole lives for this day. Each ship carried weapons that were more advanced than anything the galaxy had ever seen. But the most important target was the Kethavar homeworld of Vashtor. This was where Emperor Kethvos ruled his empire. This was where the orders to attack human colonies had come from. This was where the war would end. Admiral Karen Bell commanded the largest human fleet ever assembled. 200 warships followed her flagship Victory's Dawn toward the enemy homeworld. She was a woman who had never lost a battle, even in the training simulations that human officers used to practice for war. Enemy fleet detected, announced her tactical officer, Lieutenant Commander Bob Wilson. They have positioned their ships around their planet. It looks like they are ready for us. Karen smiled coldly. The Kethavar had learned from their defeat. At New Geneva, they were no longer underestimating human military power, but it was too late for them to change the outcome of this war. All ships, prepare for battle, Karen said over the communication system. Today we finish what they started when they attacked our colonies. Emperor Kethvos watched from his palace as human ships filled the space around his world. He was a giant among his people, standing 9 feet tall with golden armor and burning red eyes. He had ruled the Kethavar Empire for 50 years and had never been defeated. How many ships do they have? He asked his military advisor. 200, my emperor, but our defense fleet has 300 ships. We still outnumber them. Kethvos nodded, but he felt worried. The humans had already destroyed 5 of his fleets in other systems. They fought like no enemy he had ever faced. They were not just strong. They were smart. They planned every move like a game of chess. Activate the planet killer, he ordered. If we cannot win this battle, we will destroy their homeworld. Let them watch Earth burn. Deep beneath the palace, Kethavar scientists activated a massive weapon that had taken them 20 years to build. It was designed to destroy entire planets by making their suns explode. The weapon had never been tested, but the Emperor was desperate. In space above Vashtor, the battle began. The Kethavar ships attacked first, firing their biggest weapons at the human fleet. But the human ships moved like they were dancing, avoiding most of the enemy shots. When they fired back, every shot hit its target. Colonel Janet Ross led the ground assault with the 1st Human Shock Brigade. Her soldiers were the best fighters humanity had ever trained. They wore powered armor that made them stronger and faster than any normal human. Their weapons could cut through the strongest Kethavar defenses. Remember, Janet told her troops as their landing ships flew toward the planet, we are not just fighting for victory. We are fighting for every human child who was taken from their families. We are fighting for justice. The landing was fierce. Kethavar soldiers defended their homeworld with desperate courage, but human Marines had been trained for this exact battle. They moved through the enemy defenses like water flowing around rocks. Nothing could stop them. Major Chris Johnson led his company through the streets of the Kethavar capital city. The buildings were tall and sharp, designed to show the power of the empire. But now they were filled with the sounds of battle as human soldiers fought their way toward the palace. Keep moving, Chris shouted to his men as enemy fire exploded around them. The Emperor is in that palace. When we capture him, this war is over. Captain Linda Gray commanded a squad of engineers whose job was to rescue the human prisoners held on Vashastor. They found thousands of people locked in underground cells, waiting to be used in horrible experiments. Many had been prisoners for months. We are here to take you home, Linda told the rescued prisoners. You are safe now. The HFY will never hurt anyone again. But while the ground battle was going well, something terrible was happening in space. Captain Sam Davis, commanding the experimental ship Defiant Hope, detected a massive energy buildup coming from the planet's surface. Admiral Bell, Sam reported over the radio. The enemy is charging some kind of superweapon. The energy readings are off the charts. Karen felt ice in her stomach. Intelligence reports had mentioned that the HFY might have a planet-killer weapon, but no one was sure if it really existed. What is the target? Sam's science officer, Lieutenant Tracy Adams, worked frantically at her computers. She was one of the smartest people in the human fleet, able to understand alien technology that others could not. The weapon is aimed at Earth, she said with horror in her voice. If it fires, our homeworld will be destroyed. Can we stop it? Karen asked. Maybe, Sam said. But someone would have to fly directly into the weapons core and detonate our ship's reactor. It would be a suicide mission. Sam looked around his bridge at his crew. These people had served with him for years. They were like family to him. Pilot Brad Taylor was young with dreams of seeing Earth again. Engineer Tracy Adams had children waiting for her at home. Communications officer Pete Lee had just gotten married. I will do it alone, Sam said. Everyone else take the escape pods. No, sir, Tracy said firmly. We volunteered for this mission together. We finish it together. Brad nodded. Besides, you need a pilot to get through their defenses. I am the best pilot on this ship. Pete smiled sadly. And you need someone to make sure the message gets back to Earth. Someone has to tell them what we did here. Sam felt proud and heartbroken at the same time. These brave people were willing to die to save their homeworld. This was what made humans special. When everything was lost, they still fought for what they loved. The Defiant Hope flew straight toward the planet-killer weapon, dodging enemy fire and defensive systems. Other human ships tried to protect them, but the mission was too dangerous. Only Sam's ship was small and fast enough to reach the target. Energy core detected, Tracy reported. We need to get within 100 meters and then overload our reactor. I can get us there, Brad said, his hands steady on the controls even though he knew he was flying toward his death. The ship crashed through the weapon's outer shell and flew deep into its mechanical heart. Around them, alien machinery hummed, with deadly power. In a few minutes, this weapon would fire and destroy Earth, but it would never get the chance. Reactor overload in 10 seconds, Tracy announced. It has been an honor serving with you all. Sam opened a communication channel to Admiral Bell's fleet. Tell Earth we kept our promise, he said. Tell them the giants are still watching over them. The explosion lit up the night sky of Vashtor like a second sun. The planet-killer weapon was destroyed completely. Earth was safe. But Sam Davis and his crew were gone. When Emperor Kethvos saw his ultimate weapon destroyed, he knew the war was over. Human soldiers were already at the gates of his palace. His fleets were defeated. His empire was crumbling. I surrender, he announced over the planet's communication system. The HFY Empire surrenders to humanity. The war was over, but victory came with a price. Humanity had revealed its true strength to the galaxy, but they had also lost good people like Sam Davis and Kelly Murphy, heroes who had given their lives so that others could live in peace. Admiral Kate Sullivan addressed the Galactic Federation Council a week after the war ended. The alien leaders sat in silence as she explained what had happened. They finally understood that humans had been hiding their true nature for 2 centuries. We chose peace not because we were weak, Kate said. We chose peace because we were strong enough to make that choice. But when our families are threatened, when our children are taken, when our worlds are attacked, we remember what we really are, The galaxy would never see humans the same way again. They were still the friendly traders and skilled builders they had always been. But now everyone knew that behind those peaceful faces was something that could shake the stars when it was angry. Jake Morrison, now promoted to admiral, stood on the bridge of his new ship Eternal Guardian. He was leading a new fleet of exploration vessels, returning to the peaceful mission of discovering new worlds. But these ships were different from the old ones. They carried better weapons and stronger shields. The galaxy was a dangerous place, and humans would never again be caught unprepared. "Course set for the Andromeda border," reported his navigation officer, ready to begin exploration mission. Jake nodded and looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there might be other threats to human colonies, other empires that thought humans were easy targets. If they existed, they would learn the same lesson the Kethvar had learned. The sleeping giants of humanity had stirred. They had walked among the stars and reminded the galaxy why humans had conquered space in the first place. Now they returned to their peaceful rest, but they would always be ready to wake again. Because that was what made humans special. They could be the gentlest people in the galaxy, building beautiful worlds and making friends with alien races. But when their loved ones were in danger, they became something else entirely. They became the force that nothing in the universe could stop. The giants slept, but they were always watching, and the galaxy was a safer place because of it.